Hi, everyone, and live with the Services. My name is Donna Pierce, and I'm one of the ESL Program Development Coordinators at Brock University in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. In these sessions, we'll talk about topics that are of interest to English language learners, but also to international students and other newcomers to Canada, because they'll provide information about both language and culture. Our topic this week is figurative language. Figurative language, or as it's sometimes called rhetorical language, is used by speakers to make what they're saying more interesting and colorful. It can also sometimes be used to make an argument more persuasive, which can be useful when you're writing essays or other academic texts. This type of language can help the listener identify and make a stronger connection with your text message. There are many different types of figurative language, but today we'll focus on 6 of the most common and provide explanations and examples to help you start using them in your speaking and writing. The first type of figurative language is a simile, not a smile, but a simile. A simile points out a similar characteristic between two very different things and is sometimes referred to as an analogy. The key feature of a simile is that it uses the words like or as to make the comparison. Similes are very common in English, but they can be challenging for newcomers because they require a certain amount of cultural familiarity in order to be understandable. For instance, if I say he's as tall as Serge Ibaka, it won't make sense to you if you don't know who Serge Ibaka is, which, by the way, is one of our Toronto Raptors basketball players. If you don't know Serge, you won't know if I'm trying to say the person is tall or short. In this case, I'm trying to say he's very tall because Serge Ibaka is 7 feet tall, not 10, 7. Here are a few other examples. Note the use of like or as to make the comparison. So, because I got home late, I crept into the house as quiet as a mouse, which means very quietly, because we all know mice don't make much noise. Or, from one of my favorite movies, Forrest Gump, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, which means life is full of surprises. Just like when we choose a chocolate, we don't know which one we're going to get unless we use that handy map that comes with the box. Many popular similes attribute the qualities of certain animals to humans. For example, as busy as a bee, as free as a bird, although not all birds are free, just ask my pet finches, as blind as a bat, as brave as a lion, and my mom's favorite, as mad as a wet hen. Now, I don't have experience with this, but I assume chickens don't like to get wet, so when they do, it makes them very angry. Next, we have metaphors, which also highlight similar characteristics between different things, but don't use like or as to do it. Instead, metaphors make the comparison directly, which can make them even trickier to understand, especially if, again, you don't have the cultural knowledge necessary to interpret them. For example, if I say, when my son hits the rink, he turns into Gretzky, do you know what I mean? Am I saying he's a good player or a bad player? Well, the answer is I'm saying he's an excellent player because Wayne Gretzky is one of the greatest hockey players of all time and also Canadian. Here are a couple other examples from popular music. From the 80s, we have the song Love is a Battlefield by Pat Benatar, which means relationships can feel like a war sometimes. Believe me, I know. From a great Canadian artist, Michael Bublé, in his song Everything, he says, "You're a falling star. You're the getaway car. You're the line in the sand when I go too far." To tell his wife, in many ways, that she is the best part of him. We also have a lot of animal metaphors. For example, the classroom was a zoo, which means it was noisy and chaotic. Or, she's a night owl, which means she likes to stay up late. Or, he's chicken, which means he's not brave. Our next type of figurative language is hyperbole. This is where we purposely exaggerate or make something bigger in order to emphasize our point, and it's very common in English. For example, I might say, I haven't eaten all day and I'm starving to death. Now, if you look at me, you can clearly tell that I wouldn't starve to death from not eating for one day. So this is obviously an exaggeration meant to show that I'm very hungry. Here's a couple of other examples. I'm dead. Work was crazy today. Now, obviously, I'm not literally dead. I'm just using that exaggerated expression to emphasize how tired I am. Or, it's so hot outside today you could fry an egg on the pavement. Now, this is meant to be an exaggeration, but this past summer, some people showed that it's actually possible to do this. So I guess in this case, hyperbole becomes reality. Next, we have understatement, which is kind of the opposite or flip side of hyperbole. In this case, we deliberately make something less or smaller in order to emphasize our point. For example, we might say, they said we'd get about 20 people for our webinar, but instead we got 200. Not too bad, eh? In this case, not too bad is an understatement, because to get 10 times the participants as originally expected is clearly excellent and a lot more than just not too bad. We can also see the use of understatement in literature. For example, in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. When Mercutio is fatally stabbed, he refers to the wound as a scratch right before he dies. Our next type of figurative language is the rhetorical question. Rhetorical questions look and sound like real questions, but if you look at them more carefully, they're just being used to draw the listener or reader's attention, and no real answer is needed or expected. These types of questions are very common in spoken English and also in journalistic type writing, such as what you see in newspapers and magazines. However, you should be careful not to use them in academic writing because they are not valued there. Rhetorical questions are also often used in a sarcastic way. So guys, if your significant other says, "Do you think I'm crazy?" please don't answer, "Why, yes, I do," or else you better duck. This is a rhetorical question, and I will stress again, no answer is required. You can often see rhetorical questions used as a hook in the opening sentence of journalistic type writing. For example, do you want to lose weight without dieting or exercising? Again, the purpose here is to attract the reader's attention and make them want to read the article. We can also see rhetorical questions in literature. For example, going back to Romeo and Juliet, we have the rhetorical question, what's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Lastly, we have an oxymoron, which is a two-word paradox. This means that the two words involved are somehow opposite to each other or in conflict in some way. These are also quite common in English. One of the most common is a delicious type of seafood called jumbo shrimp. In English, jumbo means extra large or huge, while calling someone or something a shrimp means they are very small. So as you can see, the two words are opposites of each other. Another example of an oxymoron is found in the title of a popular horror movie, Night of the Living Dead, or the recent related series, The Walking Dead. Obviously, the dead can't be living, or walking for that matter. So this is an oxymoron, used to illustrate the presence of zombies or other similar undead creatures. So there you have it. Hopefully now you have a better understanding of some different types of figurative language, and you can start using them to make your speaking and writing more colorful and interesting. If you're having trouble understanding when someone else is using figurative language, don't be afraid to ask them to explain exactly what they mean by the expressions they're using. In time, as you become more familiar with the culture, this type of language will become easier to understand. That's all for now. See you next Thursday.